One, two, one, two. We want to welcome everybody to the Culture Lab. We want to welcome Billy to the Culture Lab, everybody. Can everybody please take their seats? Because we are about to start. So we're going to ask everyone to take their seats. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for coming to the 2025 Signatures and Street Numbers Aerosol Arts Conference. If we can please have our keynote speakers slowly make their way to the chairs up front. So we're talking about the infamous Cool Earl, the cool Klepto Kid, Cold Duck, and of course, SJK 171, who's fine where he is right now, if that's where he'd like to stay. Let's have a big round of applause for all of our keynote speakers. And I want to take a moment to share with everybody in the room what I told our guests from Philadelphia on the way in here. I never in a million years would have had a conference without them here. Never would have excluded them. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to start to begin our conference. And what I mean by why I would never exclude them is, and they get it, and I think everybody else in the room gets it. Sometime around 20 years ago or so, an individual from Philadelphia by the name of Cornbread decided that he was going to tell the story of New York City's graffiti history. Cornbread decided that he was going to tell our story, and he was going to exclude us from having any input in our own history. We were not going to have a say in this, and what he decided to tell folks was that he sent our movement to us, that he is responsible for our wall writing. So what I want to start by saying is, it really does not matter who was first, because Philadelphia's movement is their movement, and New York did not inspire that. And New York's movement is not inspired by Philadelphia. When we start to trade back and forth, we're talking about the 1970s at that point. Top Cat comes up with some letters, but believe it or not, we did have platform letters before that, but he did come and make Broadway Elegant extremely popular on the #1 line. So I will start by saying Top Cat 126 is actually not from Philadelphia. He's a Harlem native who used to visit his grandmother in Philadelphia in the summer times. So he did get very acquainted with Cornbread and the cool Klepto Kid. They did all go bombing together. We love Top Cat, and we appreciate what he brought up from Philadelphia. And we also know a few years later, after T-Bone would come up and visit us and see our subway systems, he would bring back to Philadelphia what you guys would name New Yorkers. The blown-up style of the lettering, filled in with different colors, what we call masterpieces. And it's very good that we have SJK 171 here with us. He's actually the first person to ever do that on the train. So sometimes people wonder and say, well, where do we find this and who was it? Well, that gentleman's in the room with us right now. And he chose, check these colors out, guys. Pink and white outlined in black. And he went from the windows down and he did SJK 171 and it changed the face of New York's movement. We went from the artistic Aerosol signature era, single hits, to now Aerosol art, which is the masterpieces. So when SJK did that, there were other gentlemen from Washington Heights who saw it and said, wow, I want to do that, but I'm going to make it bigger. And that was K161 and Junior 161, rest in peace to Junior 161, and they named it the masterpiece. So I just want to clear up a little stuff of what's going on the New York side as well before I call up the speakers. Our movement in New York was totally based in Manhattan. And I'm going to explain to you exactly what I mean by that. The first king, the first crown, and I'm only speaking about New York right now. The first king, the first crown, the first masterpieces, all of this begins on the island of Manhattan. It doesn't begin in any other borough, and it goes from Manhattan and spreads out to the other boroughs. And when SJK 171 and Mike 171 and guys like that would go into the train yards for the very first time ever, there were no names on the trains. So what happened was they started to put their names on the trains. And then names would come back. We all know how that works on the wall, right? You sign up on the wall. That's what you guys in Philly call it, signing up, right? And I love that term. So you see a blank wall, and Lewis signs up on that wall. A week later, 2 weeks later, you're going to see 5 names are going to follow up. So that's what happened on the trains. SJK 171 is not only responsible for the masterpiece, he's also responsible for going into the layups and the train yards, the ghost yards, SJK, right, on 207th Street, the very first time that this would happen. Before that, people would stand on the platforms or they'd ride the train, motion tagging. I did it. The train's leaving the station. We're all writing to try to get it on the outside of the train. We go on the inside of the train. The train's moving from stop to stop. We're tearing up the inside of the cars. Then we get off. We'll go across to the other side. We'll ride the train down. But these guys skipped all of that. They went straight to the heart of the matter. And they went to the train yard. And that is where they had pristine trains, where they were able to put their signatures on it and send them out to the rest of the city. And that is why New Yorkers sometimes are so stuck on the trains that when I speak to some of the elders, they don't acknowledge that our movement started on the walls. So what I need everybody to know is whether it's Philadelphia or New York, it starts on the walls. There could be some writing on the L's, but it starts on the walls. And one thing that we never hear is that history about New York City and our wall writing history. Usually it goes right to 1969, right to Taki 183, and they're not wrong about that. Because Taki led the charge with guys like SJK up to the trains. So they're right and exact when they choose his name and that year. But what happened to the rest of it? What happened from 1963 to 1964 to 1965? What happened? So what we're going to do right now is we're going to have our speakers come up. And I assure everybody that what we're going to get to the bottom of here today, and I want to just say it one more time. The only reason why we're trying to get to the bottom of this matter is because we definitely feel in New York City that we're being attacked by cornbread. And we're not sure what to do about it. So the best thing that we can do is just go to the research. Let's just go to the history. Let the history tell the story. So we have 2 studies that we're going to look at tonight. Now, I've gone through this with Cool Earl, and I've gone through this with the Klepto Kid. Earl read the study. The kid looked through the study. It seemed all right to them. They understood. Remember Earl? Johnny Cool? Right? So Earl was fascinated with the study. I've never known anything about this in New York. And I said, you know what? None of the New Yorkers know about it either. So what we're really going through here today is something that has been, I don't want to say that it's been buried, but it has. So when we look at this first study right here, okay, that's this study called Names, Graffiti, and Culture. So this study was done by a school teacher by the name of Herbert Cole, who's still alive. He's 88 years old. I speak with him. I got Pete Nice from the museum in touch with him. Unfortunately, he has been hospitalized within the past 6 months or so. Pete got a chance to speak with him briefly on the telephone right before he was hospitalized, but we assured him that we were going to dig up his study, which has been buried, and that we were going to bring the history of New York City's walls to light. So what that means is signatures and street numbers. That is the legacy and heritage of New York City. It goes way back to 1811 when the commissioner decided to make a plan of how he was going to make the avenues go up and down Manhattan, and then he was going to name the streets from First Street. So you got First and First, that's First Avenue and First Street. The avenues go all the way over to 12th Avenue, and the streets go from First all the way into the borough of the Bronx, all the way up to 220s, to 230s. So if you lived in Brooklyn, you probably didn't participate in signatures and street numbers, but Brooklyn's strain that comes after Manhattan. So the very first time that we see signatures and street numbers is in a movie filmed in 1960 in the summertime, and we see three names on a wall: Leo, 115 ST, David, 115 ST, and Ray, 109. So that when you read the walls, they tell you a story. Leo is short for Leonardo. In the 1900s, that was the most popular name for an Italian baby boy. So it's without a doubt in Italian Harlem, when we see Leo on the wall, we know that that's Leonardo. Ray is another popular Italian name, and Ray 109 is up there next to him. I'm not going to talk about the movie right now because that's some stuff we're in the works to try to get these pictures from the actual movie. So at first, signatures and street numbers were streamlined, meaning it was just the name and the number. When it went from Italian Harlem to El Barrio, Spanish Harlem, we see the Puerto Rican kids started to add something different. They added an of, Papo, of 87th, Chino, of 110, Jose, of 109. But let's not make any mistakes. That is the same signatures and street numbers movement. It's just an elongated version. It's just not streamlined. So I do want right now, while we're in Spanish Harlem, for me to give the credit to the Puerto Rican teenagers that picked up what the Italian kids were doing. The Italian kids were by the river, and gangs were brutal in 1960, 61. So you were not entering into a Puerto Rican neighborhood as an Italian kid and thinking that you were going to put your name up on the wall and that it was going to stay there, or that you weren't going to be chased out of that neighborhood. So the Italian kids didn't necessarily have the power to get it to the west side. But once it moves from the east side to the west side, my goodness, that's when the guys from Washington Heights begin to catch on to this movement. About 1967 to 1968, they take what the kids were doing in Italian Harlem and Spanish Harlem, and they bring it to the next level. They bring it up off of the streets and the walls, and they bring it up onto the train platforms. And from there, we will then see the masterpieces start to appear. We have a very special guest with us tonight, Grand Wizard Theodore. Grand Wizard, let's give a round of applause for Grand Wizard Theodore real quick. So I just want to explain real quick the legacy of Grand Wizard Theodore. So he is the sole inventor of the scratch technique. So when you hear Walmart trying to sell Halloween costumes with the Wendy's is using it to sell Frosties in the summertime, everybody loves the energies of the scratch. He should be the darling of Madison Avenue with the way they use it in promotions. But he's not known to these people. They take his creation and they roll with it. Theodore witnessed those masterpieces enter off of the trains and into the galleries for the very first time. And when Europe called and said, we want these masterpieces in our galleries, and a tour was put together with b-boys and hip-hop DJs and the Aerosol artists, Theodore was there. He witnessed it move with Dondi, Futura 2000, Crash, Days, Quick. All of these guys were asked to come to Europe to display their masterpieces, which SJK 171 is the one who invented this style, okay, and now it hits Europe. Theodore's an eyewitness to that. So we do know our New York history, but we feel like it's been robbed from us. So rather than do what I said Cornbread did, I want one big happy family. Because what happened in Philadelphia was amazing. You just start out of nowhere and it turns into a city movement. It's incredible. So you're talking about three guys who start in West Philadelphia in the beginning of 1967 and decide to write their names on the wall. Just casual at first, just kind of like Zorro. We're going to boost from this store, we're going to hit it, we're going to get on the L, we're going to hit it, we're going to go home, we're going to hit it. It wasn't exactly bombing missions at first, but it led up to that. And those gentlemen are the first ones that I found in my research, and we're going to now call them up here, because I don't want to talk no more. I want to hear their stories. I want them to tell the world that they never saw Cornbread when they first started. But what they did see as far as Cornbread was about 2 or 3 other Cornbreads on the walls from gangs. They saw it all over the city. So when Cornbread is inside the youth detention center, there are already Cornbreads on the walls of Philadelphia. Now, I don't want to take nothing away from anybody. I used to write Easy D. There was an Easy E. There was an Easy G. There was a ton of Easies out there. I can't take credit for that. A matter of fact, I think that's Herc's camp, who started with the Easy Owls and all that. Am I correct? So, I have a government named David, so I'm Easy D. That's what the D is for. So what we're seeing is these guys in West Philly come out, and then I have a special quote that I want to give you, and then I want to give it up to those guys. I finally got a quote from Dr. Cool #1. We have been speaking for 1.5 years on the phone now. It took him time to get to know me. Earl and Ed, we got to know each other real fast. I laid it on the line for them, and I told them exactly what my intentions were. Because why should I beat around the bush? And I think that they respected that. They're my friends now. Because we have a respect for each other. We would never go and try to mow down another city's history and rewrite their history to make us look good. So at this point in time, what I want to do right now is I want to call up a gentleman, Mr. Bob Rivera, who was the equivalent to New York City's Hugo Martinez. Anybody who knows Hugo Martinez, Bob Rivera is nothing like Hugo Martinez, okay? Bob Rivera is a sweetheart who truly cared about these teenagers in Philadelphia and truly wanted to see them get on the right path. Hugo Martinez was not that person. He was not. He was not a good person, and he took advantage of the young Aerosol artists from New York. But now what I want to do is pass the mic to Bob Rivera, because what he's going to do is he's going to talk a little bit about 1971 and the project that he set up. And that's as far as we're going tonight, 1971. So he's going to speak on that for a moment, and then we're going to take it to the top, when the West Philly crew starts in 1967. So let's have a round of applause for Bob Rivera. And I'm now going to pass him the microphone so that he can hear exactly what he witnessed in Philadelphia and what made him want to get involved with the young teenagers that were running around. and signing up on the wall. So here we have Bob Rivera. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, David. About 54 years ago that I met these young gentlemen. They were teenagers, 15, 16, 17 years old. We started something called the Graffiti Alternatives Workshop at a big classroom through the University of Pennsylvania. We raised funds and we invited them, and through word of mouth they came in the subways and they came to these workshops where we taught these art classes. And then I got to know them. We would talk about all kinds of different art. We got to raise some money, and we got Penn Mutual Life Insurance Company in Philadelphia to donate a construction site wall to us. And in the classroom, we designed panels where the fellas, we got the paint, the equipment, and we went out, and the fellas painted their designs on the construction site walls. Now, it was really my pleasure to get to know them, and I haven't seen Earl in 54 years. I saw Eddie recently, and recently I saw Daniel, who was then known as Cold Duck. So I wrote a proposal to continue the project. The workshop was taken over by the Philadelphia Museum of Art. I also that year made a movie with one of the wall writers named Turtle and the other one named Jason. The movie is only about 3 minutes long. You can all catch it on YouTube, and it is about graffiti, and I love making it. Since then, I have kept in touch with some of the fellas, and I know that Turtle lives in Maryland, Jason in Staten Island, and some have not continued to stay in touch, but I really feel proud and honored to have known them, have gotten to know them and work with them, and still see a couple of them. And so, anybody has any questions? Yes?
Turtle you talking about?
Turtle, his name is Lamar Jones. He did write a book also that's on Kindle.
On one of the, I don't know if it was the first or not, but y'all bought this spanking white PTC bus up the back of Channel 10 on City Line Avenue. I was on that project, and after that I got drafted in the Army. So I'm not sure what year that was. I see on the Temple Archives that picture of me kneeling down, painting on that bus. But they said like 6 months before I went in the Army. It was way before that.
I brought some pictures with me of that day and of the fellas. As it turns out, sir, 3 of the fellas, Lewis, 3 of the fellas had military backgrounds, careers, have retired, and so they have that in common. So there. That bus, I believe, was part of the program that was picked up by the Philadelphia Museum of Art.
It was.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I have a question. I'm an early 80s graffiti writer, did the trains in New York City. And I just want to know your thoughts on an art form that was considered vandalism. It still is vandalism in certain aspects. But how do you feel about an art form that was started by kids, for kids, because of oppression in ghettos, and the state of the art form today, and where it's at today? How do you feel about that?
So I'm going to tell you about that. I wrote a proposal to continue the Graffiti Alternatives Workshop. I can send you that proposal, in which there is a wonderful poem by someone named Dax, and it's about the ghetto. It's called The Ghetto. And also in the proposal, it has some answers to the very questions that you're asking, especially what prompted these young men to lash out and create these nomenclatures, these identities through names that were made up and names that were related to their own personas. So you can email me at bob@riverastudio.net. I will send you, and anybody else who wants, I'll send you the proposal, and you can, check out those answers. One more question, sir?
I'm on board right back there too, but I noticed a movement too that's now that the writers are not young anymore. They're actually older gentlemen,
It never stopped.
40s, 50s, that are writing. So
Sure, that's something I don't know much about. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Let's have a big round of applause for Bob Rivera. He did a very great thing back in the day when he noticed. A matter of fact, the second study that we're going to talk about, which was the Aerosol autographers, which came out of the Today magazine. Bob read that Today magazine, and he wanted to get involved with the kids, and he saw, I don't know if anybody remembers the name Rizzo. I know the Philadelphia guys will remember that name. Okay, he was not a nice person. And he was not really caring about the artistic form that he was seeing on the walls. And it was getting really brutal out there. So I think Bob realized, I want to take this energy and I want to put it in a better direction so that Rizzo and his boot-stomping highway patrol police officers do not get their hands on these kids for writing on the walls. Now, thank you, Bob. One thing that I did want to mention, and I forgot to give you the quote, pardon me. So before I have Cool Earl come up, let me just tell you the quote from Dr. Cool. So I spoke to him last week, and he told me, I'm ready to give you my testimony now. And I said, Dr. Cool, thank you. See, now Dr. Cool and I get along. He was a little hesitant at first, and I have been receiving some emails and calls from folks in Philadelphia who also told me I was a little bit hesitant about a gentleman from New York handling our history. But everybody told me, your energy was over the top. Your relationship clearly shined through of how well you've gotten to know Earl and Ed and Cold Duck, and we see this. I've interviewed Johnsky. I had a very good interview with Master Prink 123 where we talked about Bobby Beck. Could we get a round of applause for Bobby Beck? I mean, really, let's get a round of applause for Bobby Beck. Bobby Beck is loved. Bobby Beck is here. Bobby Beck, 59. I get a lot of responses from a video that I did with Master Prink, and the fact that I talked about it with Earl. And when Earl comes up right now, and I show you the very first article that mentions any of the teenagers' names from Philadelphia, I think everybody's going to be really surprised, because guys called me from Philly and said I had no idea about this article whatsoever. They had never even seen the article. This is the article that literally is their holy grail, and they've never even seen that article. And Bobby Beck is mentioned in that article. So I found it researching Bobby Beck. And then I see, we're going to call Earl up right now, but let me just tell you what Dr. Cool said. So he said, I'm ready for the testimony. And he told me, I don't know how you knew that I started in the summer of 1967, but you're one hell of a researcher. And when I started writing, I didn't see cornbread. I'm not influenced by cornbread. I'm not influenced by the West Philly guys, which is not a knock to them. It's just they hadn't made it his way in that 6 months before he begins. But he tells me that he's interested, he was inspired by one person. So guys in Philly are going to have to help me with this street. Ivango Street? The Ivango Street? Venango. So there was a Mr. Mingo. And this is what I also found out. Yes, Mr. Mingo. We have another name in that article that mentions Earl first, and it's Mr. Bird. So what I'm finding out is that a lot of gang members put Mr. in front of their name. Am I correct about that, guys, from Philly?
Correct.
So, Mr. Bird, Mr. Mingo. So, Mr. Mingo is who Dr. Cool told me. He befriended him. He was from the neighborhood, and he said, hey, Mingo, man, listen. I know you can't leave the neighborhood, but watch me, Mingo. Watch me. And that's when Dr. Cool started to go out. So, the very first person in North Philly to start wall writing is Dr. Cool #1. I make Dr. Cool laugh. I make Dr. Cool comfortable, and I explain to him, You have to have your legacy told. People need to hear about this. So he also told me, you might want to speak to T-Bop, a few other guys. So T-Bop and I had a conversation. At first it didn't go too well. But then it made a tremendous rebound. He began to see where I was going. So here's a quote from T-Bop, and then we're going to call up Cool Earl. So T-Bop is particularly a very big fan of Bobby Beck. He went as far as to tell me that he patterned himself. The way he hit the city, he patterned himself after Bobby Beck. He told me he was not influenced by cornbread, it would be Bobby Beck. And then he said, if there's a first king of Philadelphia, in his opinion, that would be Bobby Beck. And if there's a first king of the hype, that would be cornbread. And he said, yes, H-Y-P-E, the first king of the hype. So that's a quote from T-Bop. That's a guy right from North Philadelphia. And it seems all the guys from North Philadelphia, at one point in time in testimony, gave it up to Bobby Beck. That's what my research found out. And it's the truth. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to call up Cool Earl. Come on up here, brother. So here's the very first article. And now what I want to assure everybody that at the end of this, I want everybody to come up to me and introduce themselves to me, and I want the email address. Because every article that we go through, I'm going to put together an info packet so that anybody who emails me will receive this info packet. All of these beautiful articles, all of these studies in PDF form, and you yourself will be able to sit in the luxury of your house and read this stuff, because we're not going to be here all night to go through this. I want everybody to walk away with this information. So I will take your email, and I will send you the information packet. So before Earl, if he wants to sit down, if he wants to stand, but let's just real quickly go through what it says. And I don't have my glasses, but Earl and I have this memorized. Okay, so the first paragraph, spray painting vandals leave mark on city by William Mandel, and it says Kilroy was here. Bobby Beck had his day. But now, Cool Earl, Chewy, and Mr. Bird are the reigning kings of the Philadelphia walls. Nowhere in here did we read about cornbread. But let's go through the date. This is August 26, 1970. It will be over 6 months before we hear about anything from cornbread in the newspapers. So what we're going to do right now with that first paragraph spoken, here's Earl mentioned alongside having the baton passed from Kilroy and Bobby Beck to him and Chewy. And let's just keep in mind, when those names, Cool Earl and Chewy, show up, that's also the Klepto Kid. That's also Cold Duck. That's also Bobby Cool. Okay, what about Bad News Jimmy? Bad News Jimmy! So that's the whole West Philly crew right there. You see, so when we see their names on the wall, that's the West Philly crew. So here's the undeniable proof that West Philadelphia are the first ones to make the newspaper. And again, give me your email address and everyone will have this article in their personal collection. I now want to have a big round of applause given to Cool Earl, because yes, Earl understood when I called him exactly what was on my mind, and now Earl's my friend. When I'm on the phone with Earl and we're on the phone, I go, damn, Earl, we're on the phone 49 minutes right now. I didn't even get to tell you about the graffiti. We're talking about the Eagles, the 76ers. We're talking about everything else because we've become friends. And I just want to say, the Cool Klepto Kid said something to me the other day when I got off the phone that really touched me. And he said, Dave, every time I get off the phone with you, man, I got a real big smile on my face. Thank you, kid. Thank you. I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. You remember that, right? Cool Earl, take it away, my brother.
Okay. Dave.
All right.
Okay, here we go. I wrote a little something. Didn't go into too much depth, but I just need to say this. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'd like to take this moment, and this is why I'm here in New York, to set the record straight about wall writing in Philadelphia, and especially West Philadelphia. Wall writing in Philadelphia didn't begin in 1970s like a lot of people think. In Philadelphia, the West Philly crew started wall writing in January of 1976. I remember it clearly. It was so damn cold, we were writing backwards on the L's. So you can see it normally on the outside. Too cold to get out there and write. Anyway. All right.
Take your time, Earl.
Okay, I just gotta find my spot.
67.
Okay. For us, it began with a group of young, pioneering visionaries. A team-oriented, driven crew that included Cool Earl, Cool Klepto Kid, Chewy, Bobby Cool, Bad News Jimmy, and Cold Duck. Later, I gotta say this because he's my friend. Later, Top Cat would come to Philadelphia during the summer times to visit his grandmother in North Philly. So he ran with the North Philly crew and we ran with the West Philly crew. I gotta give it to him. And that's before he was known by you guys as Top Cat 126. He was our friend. We came to Harlem in 1970 to visit him. Had a great time. It was dangerous, but we had a great time. Thank God we had some good feet. We can run. Anyway, back in January of 1976, we were barely teenagers. I mean, like, I'm sorry. Yeah, 1967. That's what I got here. I don't know why I said 67. Back in January of 1967, we were barely teenagers. If that, riding the L trains and expressing ourselves through writing on the walls, not for fame, not for recognition or headlines, but to make our mark and to show others that we were there, that we were here, you know? Because any day you could be gone in Philadelphia, you know, whether you were in class, in school, or walking down the street, okay? Anyway, so today, I want to share the truth, the stories and the adventures of how it all began for us in West Philadelphia. Also, I'd like to talk about what drove us to write our names and how it changed the culture. Forever, it changed the culture. Even though it evolved, it changed the culture. And later it changed again, and it'll probably change again. Thank you for watching, and thank you for being a part of preserving our wall writing culture and history. This is the real story of our wall writing history in Philadelphia, especially West Philadelphia. But before we begin, I need to say this. Okay. Wall writing done in West Philadelphia and in North Philly was never done to compete with New York. Okay. Gotta make that clear. Okay. Yeah. All right. It never was done to compete with New York wall writers at all. I'm sure they had their competition here, just like we had ours in Philly. All right. However, West Philly and North Philly may have competed against each other, but it was always friendly and in good taste. You know what I mean? We're always brothers. There was never any wars between us. We're always brothers. We accepted each other from day one. We protected each other in each other's hood. I see us all as brothers and sisters in our wall writing culture and history, and I believe we're better working together than apart or at odds with each other. Why we gotta be at odds? You know, we're more powerful together. You know, wave going in one direction with power behind it is more powerful than a wave confronting another wave. You eliminate yourself, and we don't need to go into that right now because we have abundant examples of that. Tupac, Biggie Smalls, we don't need to go into that. Okay, in closing, I really want to thank all those who made this possible, especially Mr. David Joyce and associates. I'm just going to say associates, so thank you, David. We've been doing this for over a year. We've been waiting for this.
Yes, sir.
all those from West Philly, North Philly, and New York, I'd like to thank you for all being here to support me. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I mean, I'm overwhelmed. I mean, I was brought to tears. It's overwhelmed. People are asking for my autograph, and my hand's just shaking. It don't even look like an autograph, you know? But I think I can speak for the Philadelphia writers. We're very grateful for being a part of the New York Hip Hop Museum as far as graffiti goes. Thank you so much. Vandal spray painting on August 26, 1970. 8 months later, I retired because West Philadelphia would not allow me to play baseball. They made me wash off all the lockers at West Philadelphia High School and still would not let me play baseball, and I'm hitting the ball across the street. And Chewy popping the catcher's mitt, bypassing third base. We were great baseball players. That's what I wanted to do in life. And I said, that's it. I quit. And Eddie, Ku Klux Kid, and Bobby Cool, we all went down there to the Philadelphia Inquirer, and that's when Today's magazine came out, May 2nd, 1971. Yeah.
Yes, that's the second study. Everybody remembers that cover?
Yeah, that's it.
And then Sandy Padway. The Aerosol autographers, why they do it.
Now, he got some things wrong in there. He got Eddie in 1967, and he got me in 1968. We were still writing. I was writing Earl, Eddie was writing Eddie, and Chewy was writing Louie. And we started calling Chewy Sandwich Man. I want to say it because he's always eating, you know. And then that's how he got the name Chewy. He's always chewing, you know.
Who's on the cover?
That's me, Cool Earl. That's Ku Klux Kid, and that's Bobby Cool.
Rest in peace to Bobby Cool. So
Yes.
nowhere on this cover is anybody from North Philly. This is the entire West Philly crew right here.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I got a question. What part of West Coast? Jump from West
46 in Fairmont, the projects between 46 and Fairmont and 46 in Brown. Yeah. But we were interviewed in high school. We were interviewed by television personalities, and we're like, all you see is the interviewer. You don't see us because we're hiding, we're afraid, we're going to go to jail because we did some damage. You know? And then also we're on the Mike Douglas show when we were just young teens, and James Brown was there. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So where you got your funky hairstyle from? Where did you get it? Because all you guys started writing funky.
You know, I call it writing with swagger.
Yeah.
You know, like Jimi Hendrix, he got that swagger when he playing. You know, I just adopted it from Jimi Hendrix, just the name of this. But the writing, it just evolved. You know, because first I was writing like, well, cornbread. You know, and then I'm not making any fun of nobody. But that's how we started. We started writing our first names. I was writing Earl, Eddie was writing Eddie, and Chewy was writing Louie. And one day on the L's, Eddie and Chewy was writing their names, Louie and Eddie. And I was sitting there on the train. I said, Eddie, hit me. And he wrote Cool Earl. And I was thinking, I'm expecting Earl. And Eddie, Ku Klux Kid was the first person that ever wrote Cool Earl for me. Yeah. Unlike some people that don't give their people props and credit, I'm going to give my people in the North Philly crew credit because, you know, we want to see our names more than yours. You know that. You know, I got to say it. You know, it's friendly and tasteful. You know, but Eddie wrote my name first. Yeah. But then it was on. It was on. Yes, sir. Mr. Bo Cool from North Philly crew.
When did you actually come in contact with Cornbread?
Actually, Chewy was the first person to see Cornbread because he was writing his name and he seen Bread writing his name. And then the next thing I know, Chewy came back to the project and was telling us, well, hey man, I met this guy named Cornbread. He was writing this, you know, it was from North Philly, you know. I said, oh, okay, well, you know, and oh, we're gonna invite him down, you know, and I know Titty came because he made a comment about my mom, how fine she was, and I said, hey, whoa, that's my mom, man, you know, but he was cool about it, Titty was a great guy, I love Titty, you know, but I believe Dr. Cool came down, Ray came down, Dr. Hank, and some others. I'm not sure about it because it was so long. I think that was like 69-ish, 70 in that area.
I got one more question now.
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Cone from North Philly Crew. Cool Cone. That's right.
Anyway, question.
Yes, sir.
In your days, was it a Wall Riding Crew? Did y'all have a Wall Riding Crew, or was it Delta Phi Soul, the Wall Riding Crew?
No, we weren't. It wasn't Delta Phi Soul. We were a Club Odigma experience. You may see pictures of me with my girlfriend at the time, Chewy with another girl, anyway, and Bread with another girl. And you'll see 1967 at the bottom of it in Delta Phi Soul, but we were never in Delta Phi Soul. I believe maybe Bread was, but me, Cool Earl and Cool Little Kid was, and Bobby Cool was in Club Odigma experience. And it was not a wall riding club. It was a social club. We wanted to meet women. I mean, I was drafted in a gang around 10 or 11. I wanted to get out of that shit.
Was Delta Phi Soul the Wall Riding Crew?
No, I can.
I don't know.
No, Delta Phi Soul was during the time of the '69 at the Arcade Ballroom, Guarneri, Town Hall. That was our way to move around city, town hall, Mittens Hall, and stuff like that. The social clubs in the basement.
Just like I can't speak about New York, I can't accurately speak about North Philly, but I can speak about West Philly, and I am going to acknowledge my crew. It wasn't just me. I mean, it wasn't just me. We had each other's back. It was dangerous. And another thing, you know, Brad talk about asking for a permission from a gang to write your name? Are you kidding me? In West Philadelphia, that was a death wish. You get in, you get out. That's right. I mean, that's for no damn permission. Actually, there was one particular time, we were at a social club, and we went on 63rd and Mark. I think it was Club AOK. And me, Eddie, and Bobby Cool, and the rest of us, we were on 63rd and Market. Here come the Moon Gang. Oh my God. All of a sudden, yo-yos and all, it was like ants coming up the damn steps. We hopped on the tracks, the L tracks, and ran to 60th Street Market, and another train was going by us, and they were looking at us like we were crazy. We were going to sit here and get killed. You know, but that's another example. You don't ask a gang. They didn't like us coming down and taking their women, right, Eddie? That's what that was about. Any more questions? You had a question, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
My name is Forrest Smith. They call me King Smooth.
Nice to meet you, Mr. King Smooth.
I'm from North Philly, where all of you are comrades.
I've seen Smooth before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was from North Philly, y'all from West Philly.
Yes, sir.
My name's Forrest Smith, but I'm associated with Will Smith. I was going to ask you, was Will Smith around the area when y'all was out West Philly where you were living? But I still go around there.
Are we talking about the Fresh Prince of Bel Air?
Yeah.
Will Smith. He's a lot younger than us.
Yeah, he's generation.
Yeah. But when I first moved here, I'm a natural birth baby born in Georgia at my granddaddy's house, okay? Who was a sharecropper. His daddy was in the Civil War. I mean, I go way back. Anyway, we moved to Philly when I was like 4 years old. And,
I still go around the neighborhood because I'm from North Philly.
yes. But where I first moved, I'm going to finish my thought. Where my family first moved, I was like 3 or 4-ish, was right across the street from James Rose And on Will Smith's movie or Fresh Prince, you did see the basketball court. That was James Road. So he must have lived around that area. But I moved to my family moved to the projects. Yes, sir. Good to meet you too, Mr. Smooth, King Smooth.
So what we're going to do here right now is we're going to just reiterate one thing that Cool Earl said, because I need everybody to understand this. In 1970, NBC News from Philadelphia got a hold of these guys, okay? Again, months before we hear anything about cornbread, these are the guys that are on the news first in Philadelphia. In the first news article and in the first news on television. It's these guys. And when we come to talk about the program he's talking about, the Michael Douglas show, that was like, anybody remember Donahue in New York? Okay, so Michael Douglas was similar. It was a daytime talk show in Philadelphia, and I do believe it was nationally broadcast. So what happened was, yes, these guys, once again, it's always at this origin point for media attention, it's always these guys. Yes, yes.
I need to say this one more thing. I'm sorry, Mr.
No problem.
But Bob Rivera, I need to say thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Bob Rivera, because we were kids, you and Sandy Rubin? Yes, sir. You and Sandy Rubin took us under your wings. I'll never forget the wine and cheese. I'll never forget that. But I'll never forget the Philadelphia Alternative Art Program and what it led to all those murals. And then even getting paid for painting, which is what this was really all about. Because we had, like Butch Cole Doug says, we had political malnutrition in West Philadelphia. They forgot all about us. I don't know where that money's going, but they living in some nice houses, ain't they? You know what I mean? And I just want to say thank you, Mr. Bob Rivera. Thank you for taking us under your wings and directing us like a father should do his kids. Thank you, sir. God bless you, and God bless the late, great Sandy Rubin. Thank you, sir.
So let's have a round of applause for Cool Earl for speaking his truth, for speaking his testimony, for letting everybody know that there were certain things that did influence him and there were certain things that did not influence him. And one of the things that definitely did not influence him was something he couldn't even have saw. So what I want to elaborate on that is when they started writing at the beginning of 1967, and we always hear what you mentioned, Cornbread says, that nobody was writing from 1967 to 1969 in Philadelphia. It's just absurd. So he's literally writing in the street while Cornbread is locked up. So when we hear the 1965 date, I want to know, how do you start a citywide movement locked up in a youth detention center? How do you do that? How do you start a citywide movement locked up in a youth detention center? What we're going to do now is we're going to move on. I just wanted to let everybody know that on that Michael Douglas show, these guys were there with James Brown, and in the elevator, I love this story. I got to tell this story. So Sandwich Man, Chewy's in the elevator, and they're taking James Brown and these three guys up to the show, and Chewy, he leans in on James Brown and he whispers something in his ear. And James Brown, you know, had the gear on, James was fly, and he's just like, no. And they're like, what did you ask James? What happened? And he's like, kid, I asked him for a quarter. And James Brown, I heard James Brown was pretty tight, and he just said it. No. So what we're going to do now is we're going to call up the man that wrote Cool before Earl. Let's have a big round of applause for the Cool Lepto Kid. Let's Bob is in the house. Bring yourself up here, kid.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let's hear some of those. Let's hear some of those great stories from the West Philly mob.
Well, I gotta tell y'all something right away. I'm so nervous.
Well, let's get you the microphone first.
Wait. I might start farting.
Oh boy, what you eating too much cornbread?
I'm just kidding. I don't call it cornbread.
Let's get you the microphone, sir. Let's get you the microphone. And please, just tell us first, if you had any inspiration, who was your inspiration?
Well, see, what we did, we were boosted. We were poor from down the hood, and we was running around a merry band of boosters. But the thing about it was, we wasn't getting caught. And as we was boosting, we would come outside the stores after we hit them, boom, and sign our shit, and move on. And we was doing this here so frequently that people said, man, I saw your name all the way up in Chester. Yep, we was there. But these was the spots we was hitting. I mean, we was coming home with bags of clothes. Because back then going to school, man, I was going to school with a hole in the bottom of my shoes and a piece of cardboard to keep my foot from hitting the fucking floor. Excuse the expression. So, you know, when we got into this boosting thing, man, our wardrobe, boom, 30 pairs of silk walls, because that's what they was wearing back then, the silk walls, flauses, $150 flauses. I mean, we built our wardrobes up immaculately. And granted, you know you're doing wrong, but I looked at it, fuck it. I'm gonna do me, and that's what we was doing. So, you know, we built our own way of living. You know, because, I mean, there were times, and I think when my boosting first started, I came home from school and looked in the refrigerator after school to get something to eat, and I saw a half a gallon of water, and on the side of the refrigerator, a tub of lard. That image is burnt in my brain to this day. And I looked at it and said, that will never happen again. I got up and called my younger brothers. Come on, Mike, where we going? We're going on the avenue. I went up there, man, I started taking hamburgers, hot dogs, cans of beans. You know, I mean, I came home with a shopping bag. And my mom, I came in and poured it on the table, she just started crying. This was survival. Yeah, exactly. Hence the name. But the beauty of it, again, I have to reiterate, we wasn't getting caught. We started organizing. And even with the spraying and writing our names, we organized this shit. And all of us, the ones that are still here, have become successful. Everybody. He living well, I'm living well, Duck's living well. You know, but the fall,
movie star.
Yeah. He was appearing in a couple movies. But the other ones that, you know, the fallen ones, you know, rushed their souls, you know. But it was a beautiful thing to see that, you know, that we rose from this to here, you know, and you know, when you look at the graffiti thing and going back to, you know, the whole thing about bread and you know, if you just listen to some of the stories, it just don't make sense. He wrote on the elephant. First of all, the elephant is, if you write on his belly, you would have to write on his belly. And if you write on an elephant, this beast is not going to stand here if he smells that paint. He feels threatened. And he's going to grab your ass, slam you on, this is what they do, slam you on the ground and crush you.
Thank God it wasn't much season.
Exactly. And, you know, when you see the ones with the mush on it, they are vicious. So, I mean, you know, I'm not here to bash you, no, because what am I going to get, a cup of coffee, Wawa's? No. But the main thing is, let's get the truth out, man.
Talk about it.
It's horrible. What you're doing, like we were in Baltimore, and he got up on the stage and made some comments. I'm cornbread, self-proclaimed king of, and he got booed off the stage. He got booed. You know, and I was laying in the van thinking about it. I said, damn, man, that was messed up. I called the brother up the bar and kind of consoled him because I felt bad for him. But when you look at it, you did this to yourself. Oh, yeah.
You made that bad.
Huh? Yeah, you make that bad, you gotta lay in it. Going back, there's one particular thing I wanted to bring up. A tag that I hit was down on 46 in Market. It was it used to be the old ABC. Because the ABC used to be right on 46 in Market. They moved out to City Line Afro years later, but this was early 60s. And it was a big, beautiful wall. You had to climb up the building to get up there, right? But
American Bandstand.
yeah, American Bands and
Happy Kangaroo.
Yeah, and Sally Star, all of them used to perform in that building. So I climbed up there. I mean, I had center wall. I hit this joint, the Club Kid. I mean, within 3 days, it was like 100 niggas up there. You know, but I wasn't angry. I was more proud. You know, because I saw this is a following. You know, I hit this joint and all these jokers right behind it. Boom, bang, boom, bang. Then we started doing that like in a lot of places. So, yeah, the beauty of it, man. Yeah, hitting bars. Because one time we had Scepter and the city come at us. And yeah, well, what it was, they set up a meeting. I remember we met in a hotel. And like when they came at us, first of all, years later, I realized it was illegal. We was kids. These was grown men, suit and ties. We want to talk to you. What can we do to get you to stop? Because they couldn't catch us. One, they never could catch us. And we said, well, we need some jobs. When I was speaking up, I said, we need some jobs. The city said, yeah. Scepter said, no. I guess the meeting's over. I got up. We left out that night. We hit a depot. Every bus, every trolley.
That we could.
Yeah, it was covered. Yeah, it was 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. All you could hear it is. We was hitting the back and the side. We had every bus and depot, and of course they called us back, and we had a treat. But this was when we was pretty much. We were starting, I think, become young adults. 16, 17 years old, because a little after that, I think I joined the military. Not because of the graffiti, but because shit was getting hot in the city. I was around like 3 deaths, and I felt the clues. That's when I gotta get the hell out of here. It's time for me to go. And I think it was the best move I could have ever made in my life, because 4 of us signed up. They failed the test. I went on in, and all of them were gone. All of them. You know, and horrible deaths the way they left.
Because there was actually a time, man, I didn't think I was going to live to see graduation from high school. Okay? That's how bad it was. And every night, blah, 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 blah. I thought it would be safer in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, me and Eddie was a cool clever kid. We were playing chess in high school. Guy come up to us in free school. Guy came up to us with a gun. But he didn't know I had a bolt action sawed-off shotgun. I just pointed at him. And he didn't even know.
Yeah.
I probably just took half my knee off. I'm glad I didn't have to use it.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah, we had to go to school because we was way out of the neighborhood, strapped up.
It's a dangerous life.
It was
I mean, the graffiti artist is a dangerous life.
This was a 9-shot loop. Yeah, but it was rough, no doubt about it. You know, but we survived it. You know, and we didn't have to kill nobody. Nobody killed us. You know, it was rough times, and again, like I said, we survived it. But you know, I think the fame of the graffiti, because I remember going to New York, and when I walked into there, and people came out wanting to sign their books, man, they brushed me like I was part of the Beatles or something. and I mean, I was starstruck because I had a sign this in. I had a photographer. I remember she was in there. And she grabbed me and said, "Well, excuse me, y'all. I need this gentleman," and pulled me in the green room. And she said, I saw it on your face. You know that I mean I was terrified. And the same thing happened in Philly too. You know that remember they bomb rush when we came in the back door.
It was so hard to get in. They had to bring us in the side door.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it was so much respect, and even when we went to see the North Philly crew first, and they showed so much love and respect. You know, I haven't written for like 30 or 40 years before, you know, and I tried to write, and it came out just like it's coming out now in the beginning when I'm signing autographs here. It just didn't come out right. I was just nervous. You can see how it's just nervousy. But they showed so much love to me, and I just want to thank the North Philly crew for welcoming all of us with nothing but love.
Yeah.
And the West Philly crew reciprocates. We got nothing but love for you guys, man.
And that's something I want to mention. I'm born in 1970, so I'm not from you guys' generation, but a lot of people might not know that New York and Philadelphia has had this relationship. Philadelphia has been invited up several times. Charmin 65 cooked chicken for you guys, barbecue guys did walls. So all I'm trying to do is follow the role of my elders. And I was aware of this relationship. So I saw that this could, you know, when someone keeps making claims, people start to get aggravated. So I said, let me see what I can do to just try to, you know, work this thing out. Now, when you mentioned Scepter, this is an artifact here. So this is a 1969 annual report from Scepter. Okay, and it starts to begin to talk about how the budget to clean all of the buses and the train, it starts to talk about how it's only beginning at that point in 69. It's not, actually 69 is when it kind of takes off in New York. We have King Smooth in the building. Let's give a round of applause to King Smooth. I believe King Smooth, from my research, I saw the tag, which I think it was 1971 possibly, is the very first time I saw a Philly tagger on the outside of a train. So again, not on the inside. So in Scepter, we're going to start to notice that it parallels that the budgets in New York City and in Scepter around 69 to 70, they start to skyrocket. Skyrocket. Millions of dollars eventually by 71 and 72 are being spent to clean this stuff off, you know?
You know, you got a good point. One time, because we were young, and we used to crawl under the turntiles and sneak on the L. And when we were sneaking on, the guy saw us in the booth and came running out and said, no, don't run. He said, I want to shake you guys' hand. He said, Scepter just hired everybody back because of y'all.
Yeah.
All our jobs back. And let us on. I'll never forget that. Yeah, he said, no, come on. And let us on. Yep. So it was awesome.
So let's have a big round of applause for the cool Klepto King. Now what we're going to do, I'm sure we have some questions for the king, but we have a lot of speakers, and we can't have the questions outnumber the speakers. So we can have some time at the end, but what I'd like to do right now, I want to comment, because I've had a lot of conversations. Not as many as with Earl and Ed, but Cold Duck and I have had a good 4 or 5 conversations, and I just want to mention something that Bob told me about Cold Duck. And he told me that when Duck was in the program, he was very involved and he loved the artwork. But he said something to me I found very interesting, and I want to double down on this. My conversations with Duck, he's an extremely cerebral individual. So he told Bob, I want to be an architect. And Bob said, well, that's great. You want to build that? No, I don't want to be an architect on the planet Earth. I want to build in space. Okay, so this is the generation that witnessed the moonwalk, right? 1969. So I'm sure that had something to do with what influenced Duck to say, no, you know, we have space stations now. So this gentleman was seeing the future as a teenager. He didn't want to build tutors. He didn't want to build condominiums. I don't care about colonials. I want to build in space. Am I right about that, Mr. Rivera?
You are.
So,
Alright.
so what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring that individual up right now, and let's have a big round of applause for the brother Cold Duck. Let's put our hands together. And let's hear from the man who wanted to build a colony on Mars. He was not far off, man. So here you go, sir. Let me pass the microphone to you, and thank you so much. So I just want to mention, by the way, do we realize history is being made here today? These guys have not been in the same room together for over 50 years. Do we understand what that means? This is the original West Philly crew. Who is missing? Rest in peace to Bobby Cool. Rest in peace to Chewy. And Bad News Jimmy! We don't know about Bad News Jimmy. We don't know where he is, but his name precedes him. And real quickly, Jimmy also went into the Army. His commanding officer told him, don't let anybody into this room. He's standing there with his gun. This higher commanding officer said, no, I didn't enter that room. He knocked all this guy's teeth out. That's Bad News Jimmy for you. So let me pass the mic to Cold Duck right now so that we can hear this gentleman's testimony. And can you just start by telling us what inspired you a little bit, sir? And here you go. Thank you, Cold Duck, so much for being here.
To me, it was very interesting. I'm an artist, and what came to me as a danger zone was one, because I used to go to the grocery market with a copy shop and carry people's groceries home for, some change. And after I dropped off the packages, I hit for an art store to buy some art supplies and a gas model Boston wooden plane kit. As I exit the store, I realized there was some guys in the corner and across the street. So that gave, it made me be aware, but I didn't think it was as dangerous as it became. To the point where, though, I noticed people getting hurt, getting killed. Things was changing drastically. And I knew if I stayed in the artist zone, I was going to be a statistic. Because my mind would have been based, on my artwork and not paying attention to my surroundings. So that was on my mind. I was worried about my brothers and sisters and my mother. And walking across the street, I seen Earl and Eddie. And I asked them, are you aware of what's going on? And they said, yeah. And bottom line, Earl said, why don't you hang out with us? And I kind of, yeah, all right. I thought about it while I'm standing there, and then I accepted. And they said, meet us here at a certain place. And that was done. And I remember the first time being on the train, and I was wondering, what are these guys up to? What are they doing? I'm gonna go check it out. So I'm there, and so the train pulled off at 46th Street, and Shorty pulls out a marker, real funny. And I said, oh, it's very interesting. And so that went on for a while, and it got to the point where, as though all these places they had that, I was with them. It just wasn't right, So then Ed said one day, hey Butch, you gonna hang out with us? You gotta participate. I said, yeah, you gotta get a name. I'm thinking about it. Which I wasn't. But, so that's how I came out. So I came up with a name. And I remember the first time I wrote it, I wasn't sure if it fit me. I didn't think I was cool. I just didn't think I was that kind of cool person, So I'm like, So anyway, came up with Cold Duck. And so I like it. They started laughing and everything. And So that's how it started. What was most interesting is that there was an energy during that time. And as an artist, I felt the energy. I didn't really understand it, I mean, it was something different, but I didn't have time to, think more about it because of the activity that was going on, the dangerous activity. But as time progressed, I started to put this whole picture together as a realism abstract. Okay? It became to me like it was a mission. What we did in the midst part of graffiti, I don't think we really knew what we were doing. Okay? And I always had that question mark, above my head, thinking. And I remember one day coming home, my room was filled with my artwork, model planes hanging from the ceiling. And I just shook my head, sat down on bed. Because I didn't really like it. This is the first time you're hearing this. I hated it because it was taking away from my artwork. Okay? And so I said to myself, you can always quit. That's what I'm thinking to myself, because I'm pondering, walking around, but I felt the energy, and that wasn't a good thing. And then I knew there was something else behind this, because of that energy I felt like, don't quit. So I said to myself, okay, I'll continue, but the first sign I get to walk out of this, I'm going. Now, I didn't ponder around and me looking for signs, stuff like that, because, it was a life that you had to move on. And so that sign came in 1971 when I woke up one morning and put my clothes on, my ready call, Earl, shoes. And I got up and I exited the room, but I felt like I was missing something. And I went back. But I had everything. Still felt like I was missing something. And I looked. I said, oh my God, it's over. And I jumped up in joy. And I said, oh. Now, in the meantime, during our activity, not only was I an artist, which I had to reduce my art activity, I was a band member. Okay, so at night.
And a mechanic.
Yeah, right.
Build an engine when it was like, 14 or 15. All over the kitchen. I remember it clearly. I was shocked. I didn't see no technical manuals. Torque,
So during the evenings at night, I was playing in, bars, and I was young, but I was good. And then, I had my other activities, like you said, you're building engines, So I was a pretty busy guy, I was happy. But then, when I woke up that morning and realized it was over, I came downstairs and I was like so excited. And here come Earl walking down the street. And he said, you going out today? You coming? I said, no. He said, oh, Earl, by the way, it's over. And I know, because I can feel it in the air, it's over. And I proceeded and I went on to band practice. So to me, this is a work of art, and I still see it as realism abstract as we hear today. Somewhere along the line, someone is going to put a realism abstract together of the times of graffiti and what was the purpose of it calling it graffiti. Okay? Because there was a lot of things going on. He's talking about it's vandalism. Okay, well, separating communities. What do you call that? And making people work hard or don't get work and taking the money out of the communities and giving to someone else to deprive other people. What is that called? Okay? So it's all political embedded. It was a plan, and we didn't invent the plan. We was part of it because the plan was aimed at certain communities, which community that I had lived in. And I never thought I had lived in the ghetto. Someone told me, because my vision of where I lived at. It's very creative. The different types of people, the activities that was going on. I thought it was rewarding to see, you know, the different types of people, the activities they were doing. It was rewarding to me because I put it to use. You see? So we, as young teenagers, what we did has something to do with the history of our families. And I'm not talking about I'm not talking about like 1800s. I'm going as far as back as 13th century. Okay? When people started coming to me and saying, "You're our favorite, you're heroes," I was like, I didn't see that. But then as I looked on back what we were doing, I realized, yeah, there's something to this. And like Ed said, on 46th Street, as we entered the subway, I said, "Oh, come here." The guy was coming out of the booth, and he did say, "Oh, wait, don't go, don't," you know. They hired all the workers they fired. They hired us back because of you guys. And so I said, "Wow." I remember Troy said, "Oh man, we put a lot of people back to work." So that was money going back in our communities that was taken out of our communities. You see? So there was more to this than just writing on the walls. Okay? And then I found out, because when I stopped, I disappeared. And during my travels, I heard things about the graffiti in Philadelphia. There's something wrong about that? You know? All right, so I kind of kept my eye on it a little bit, but then I let go. And, 5-10 years later, I'm talking about this. I said, let me look into this. Now, finding the universities having students doing theses about what we did, and historians are involved. So now if the historians are involved, which means they know something that we don't know because this is what they do. Like David, I thank you, I admire you, because to do research is a lot of work and time. And so I was proud to be a part of the movement. To me, it was an accident, for an outcome of what was happening in Philadelphia. Okay, it wasn't right, and when we talk about the Rizzo, the movement, and all that. Okay, that was created. Because going as far as back as Africa, they played that same game on African tribes to fight each other. And all of a sudden, from one end of Philadelphia to the next end of Philadelphia, there were gangs everywhere. All of a sudden.
Fighting each other.
Yeah. Now, one thing I recognized during the end of the movement, when I went to visit my girlfriend at the time in another area, one gang member said something to me. Don't get into it. Oh, no, it's cool. I didn't know this guy. I said, no, it's cool. It's cool. I'm thinking something under this, I'm like, okay. And that continued to the time when I had got robbed. Right? When alpaca, full-length cashmere. Now they took my alpaca, but they didn't manage to take my cashmere. And I thought about that because alpaca, I was wearing alpaca and I had the cashmere over. But they took the alpaca as like a trophy. Like you guys say, oh, as they walked away. Now it was dangerous this time. Okay? I could have been shot, I could have been stabbed. I was by myself. There's three of them. But I remember one guy laying in the cut. And I knew why he was laying in the cut. So I was very casual with my movements, but I was still defensive. Keep my eye on the guy in the cut. At the same time, they managed to get the powder sweat off of me, and they walked away like, oh. Then I said, wow, this guy's right. And I think I mentioned to So you guys was coming up on the Dusty, and I was saying, hey, I think we're making a change here. And another incident where we was walking in another territory, it was Whitten Avenue territory, and they said, here they come. And they was across the street, and Chewy's about ready to write. And you said, Chewy, write your name. And Chewy wrote his name, and then Earl's standing looking at him, and they kept looking. They had a mean look on their face, and I wasn't sure what was going to go down, And so, he said, Chewy, did you write your name? And then Earl turned around, you wrote your name. Then someone said, hey, that's cool. That's Doc. Hey, Doc, is that you? What? Yeah. And it was probably like 13 or 15 of them. And he said, see, guys, I told you, they're cool, man. They're war writers. That's Doc. And sure enough, we was able to walk away in the territory we did not live in. So I was convinced we had something to do with the de-escalation of gang wars. And I had never said anything. But anyway, this is the first time you guys hear it. But, I kept that in my mind. Because I'm looking at it as a painting, as a movie, because it was very unique what was going on. And like Eddie Aaron said, any moment of time, any of us could have went down. I didn't know it was going to be you, me. I didn't know who it was. That's how I didn't. I didn't think I was going to be alive at the end of the year. Okay, but I didn't have time to continue to think about that. What I had time to do to analyze and try to make a plan and proceed with that plan to stay alive. Okay, and so that was my part of that mission, and I can say it was a mission because when I felt that energy, but you always quit. That will come with the mission.
Yeah.
The objective was to complete that mission. I didn't know where it was going to end, but I knew when I said to myself, "Thank you." That energy as an artist that I had felt it was not good, and I was like, "I'm not going to violate the universe. I'll do it." But I get one sign, I'm gone. So it's and as today, as I see it moving along, it's like letting the snowball roll down a hill. Regardless if I get involved or you guys stop, it's not going to stop people talking about this. So which means there's something that's going on.
It's not going to stop them moving.
Okay, they haven't stopped talking about what happened during Egypt, the wall writings and messages on the wall by Egyptians, Incas, Aztecs. So what makes us so different? They have to continue what we did. Now look, everybody was a teenager. And a lot of teenagers did a lot of things when they were teenagers. But how many of those teenagers around the world that historians and universities are talking about? Okay? And so, I don't know where this is going to happen. But I decided to tell my part of it, why I got involved, and what really happened. And I don't care about who was saying they're number one. I've always said, like I told Earl, history will tell the truth. So don't worry about it. So I thank everyone. And when I met Mr. Bob Rivera, Sandy Rubin, and the rest of the crew, it was a welcoming feeling. And I recognize they were artists. And I don't want to say artists have a different perception of what's going on or they can lead, but we can lead. Anytime we can bring a picture to you and people come up and say, well, how did you come up with that idea? I used to say, well, I kind of leave planet Earth and go out and bring it back and share it. So So I think there's a specialty to that, as certain individuals can do that, which I thought at one time everybody was an artist. But over the years, I became, aware that that's not true. So I just thank everyone for the good memories of what happened and what you say to the population about what happened and why you did it. Because they already know. A lot of historians already know how the gang started and the reason behind it. And it was money, okay, diverted to other areas and to certain people, okay. It started to clash in other neighborhoods. So thank you, David. I was there.
So I just want to mention real quick that when we have the aerosol autographers, why they do it, Cold Duck showed up to the photo shoot to this. But unfortunately, he didn't partake in the interview. So although his photo is in the article, he wasn't interviewed. So guys, we haven't heard. I was privileged enough to interview Duck probably about 8 months ago or so. We did an interview on Zoom. But you guys are hearing from Cold Duck for the first time in over how many years now, So this is amazing right now, okay? I can't take credit for it. I did cold call Mr. Leatherberry, and that's how this all started. And on our first conversation, we really hit it off. Earl needs to know about this cease and desist letter that's being put onto Cornbread for lying about the movie Cornbread, Earl and Me. So when Earl found out that he was wrapped up in this lie, and now there's legal documents being put forth, and there's over 15 interviews where Cornbread's saying, Earl said, oh, you're Hollywood interviewers. I want to be in this movie if you're doing a movie about Cornbread. And they said, who are you, kid? He said, I'm Cool Earl. So you see how the story that Cornbread can't have that story if he doesn't ride the legacy of Cool Earl. And what he also does, which is very typical, is you shoot down who you're chasing. This man has 25 mentions from 1970 to 1974 in Philadelphia newspapers. There's not one war writer from Philadelphia that has more mentions than this man. And again, that's in his whole crew. But when I counted the mentions for Cornbread, I didn't even get up to 20. Okay, so who's chasing who? Okay, so I want to give a big round of applause. I hope, Philadelphia, that you sincerely understand that I tried to do my best to bring the legacy, the real legacy of Philadelphia, the real stories. Mr. Pettit, the Michael Douglas Show, all of these things, this is these guys right here. Okay, and what about the bus and all of these other projects? So I have an article here where Bob Rivera's mentioned, and it talks about how it says, Cool Earl worked in the open, Chewy took the day off. Even when Chewy went to look for a job, he still went back to the alternatives, okay? So it's written in there that Cornbread showed up, I think, for the introduction, the first meeting, and then he disappeared. But when you hear him in interviews, he talks like that's his baby. And he talks about the mural project like that's his baby. He didn't do your legacy justice.
Anyway, I just want to say this about the movie, Cornbread, Earl and Me. I'm not going to talk about it no more. It wasn't about us. I was led to believe that it was, and I'm sorry to let anybody down that think that it was about us, but it wasn't about us. But Brett said something that really kind of pissed me off. When he said it, Earl said, oh, Brett, it's really coming true for you. This is what you always wanted. You always wanted this. I never said that. He will ride your coattail. And I'm sure he's rode some of the North Philly crew coattails, and you guys are so loyal. I get it. But he got to be loyal to you too. we gotta recognize you too. Without you guys, there is no him. You know, without Dr. Cool and Teddy and Dr. Hank and Bo Cool and all the rest of you guys, Lewis, it's no him. But when he said that, you know, it just really pissed me off, man. You don't know what I wanted to do. But it wasn't shaking hands. Anyway, that was not true. And I'm sorry to go there like that. I had to get that off my chest.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like the way he portrayed me. You know, he rides your coattail, gets up there, and then he stomps on you. And I didn't like that. I believe he did it to Dr. Cool, Dr. Hank, and Brother Titty. God bless his soul and saint, Brother Saint. And true. God bless him and Bobby Cool.
So, here we have the West Philly crew. We have the Aerosol autographers. We're going to go back to history for one moment. So what we're going to notice in Sandy Padway's writing is that he actually quotes the first study. And not only do we see the walls in both studies, Sandy was he was influenced by this first study. We can see it. And he quotes Herbert Cole over 100 words. So when Sandy writes why they did it, the subtitle, it's not to knock Sandy, but Sandy didn't really answer that. He used Herbert Cole's study, and basically that study's about the kids from New York City. And Sandy didn't decide to say to these guys, hey, by the way, there was a research study, a young guy by the name of Johnny of 93, and these kids are running around writing their signatures and street numbers, and if this was done back then, possibly we wouldn't be where we are today. But undoubtedly, when the first study comes out in 1967, there clearly is over 100 kids running around in New York City, writing their names and street numbers in Manhattan, when the Philadelphia movement is just beginning. And when I shared that with these gentlemen, they didn't bat an eye. They didn't bat an eye. And they said, that's great. And I'm glad to learn about that now. I remember when everybody called me, you like, this Johnny Cool. You like, his name was Johnny Cool. And they had there was no feeling like something was being robbed from them. But what I noticed with the younger generations of Philadelphia cats is that they've listened to Cornbread for decades. And you can't tell them anything. They're just going to keep saying Cornbread was first. All I wanted to do was a great job for Philadelphia and bring this history forward again. The Michael Douglas Show. All of the stuff we talked about today, it's all the West Philadelphia crew. Al Diaz is going to come up for a moment. Let's have a big round of applause for Bob One.
So I'm a first generation New York City graffiti writer. Me and SJK went to high school together. So I have one of the things that I'm driven by is telling a story correctly. It kind of bothers me when people fuck up the details on history, especially when history about people who are still alive, because we're here to tell that. If somebody is telling the story wrong and you lived it, it is your obligation to step in and say, no, it didn't happen like that. Right. Because that's part of your history, and if you have any kind of self-worth, that means something to you. So I was actually. One of the things, I'm an artist, I work as an artist, make my living as an artist at this point in my life. I'm 66, so it took me all my life to be able to make a living as an artist, because I work construction most of my life. So these days I'm asked to do classes with, I wrote a book, I curated a big show about a history, not the history, a history of New York City graffiti, about 3 years ago, and along with that, me and two other people put a book together of a history of a pictorial history, a timeline of New York City history, starting with with the person that we all always assumed was the first guy to be noticed, who was Julio 204. But since that, the material that David has researched, finally dug out of I don't know where, but he found it, and it's all legit. I actually have passed that on to. I haven't added it to the. We have not edited the book yet, but we will add that because it changes the whole the narrative from 69 or whatever when Julio was 67 to much earlier with these kids that were adding a number to their name, because that's really what defines our culture. It's not just writing your name, it's the fact that we had a name or a nickname followed by a number, and that's kind of what, the basic element of a tag, in the New York City tag anyway. So that changes it changes the narrative, because it goes back even further. From 69 to 1960 is kind of a big deal, So anyway, I have since then made sure that if I should share any kind of research stuff with people, that they get that information as well, because it's important. It's part of our history, and it's important it changes the narrative. Anyway, and I appreciate that.
Yes, and thank you so much. So I just said that this is Al Diaz as Bomb One. Bomb One was a famous graffiti writer in New York City. He was a wall writer. He wrote on the trains. He did all of this. But also, that's the gentleman that started SAMO with Jean-Michel Basquiat. Okay? So there's a lot of research comes out of Philadelphia, and they assume that SAMO was a person. SAMO is that same old shit, okay? That same old shit on the welfare line, that same old shit in the supermarket. That's what SAMO means. So SAMO would come up, ... and then a line would come after it. Oh, the milk prices are up. Whatever was going on at that point. So SAMO's not a person, and SAMO never wore a crown. The crown comes later with Basquiat. When Basquiat passed away, he never heard about cornbread. We have our own crowns in New York City that he saw here. And that's what he's influenced by. But Culture Livingston in the Tag City, he did a whole piece on how Basquiat was cornbread all day. Holy shit. Where's this coming from? So here's Al Diaz letting you know SAMO is not a person, because in that documentary he said SAMO was a person, and that was his tag, and he wore a crown. You have to speak to the source. We're not going to do this anymore. This is why Philadelphia is here. Thank you so much, guys, for coming. I can't tell you how much I respect you for coming up here and sharing your testimonies with us. And look at the love in the room. So we have one more person who's going to speak very briefly. We have SJK 171, and he just wants to talk a little bit about the New York City movement for about 5 minutes or so. And then we're going to try to wrap this up with a little more music from Grand Wizard Theodore, and let guys know a little bit about what it was like when it moved from the walls onto the trains and into the train yards. And all these guys know each other. This is that relationship that I speak about that existed before me. I'm only born in 1970, so I could not have been a part of forming this. This existed already. So let me give the mic to SJK 171, the man behind the masterpiece.
Thank you for having me here at the museum, Rocky Bacano and Pete Nice. You guys did a great job of putting this together with David Joyce. And I see a lot of good stuff in the room that's going to be transferred over to the New Hip Hop Museum. That's going to be like a major influence in all of New York. I really want to thank the museum for that and doing a great job. Thank you. Let's put that out for everyone. Okay, the first pieces that we started was in the layup in the Ghost Yard, called it the Ghost Yard. That's where all the pieces originated from, because that was the one line, and that changed over to the 2, 3, 4, and 5 lines, and that's how it was able to go across the Bronx, and everybody started looking. So that's how it started, because that's how when we went to the subway cars in the layups, there was no graffiti on the subway, nothing. So We started putting colors. I started putting outlines and squiggly lines and triple outlines and all that. And then it just blossomed into artwork that was floating around the city. I think the whole culture is just great to be part of this culture, that it continues around the world today, and I'm happy to be part of it, guys. Really, ladies and gentlemen, as a matter of fact. And that's what I want to say.
Thank you so much, FJK 171. Now, what I want to do before we just end this right now is I'd like, if the guys from Philadelphia can come up one at a time and introduce themselves to everybody, one at a time. So, can we start with you, Bo Cool? Pass you the microphone, and if you could just tell your name and possibly the year you started.
My name is Bo Cool, from North Philly. I started in 69 and I stopped in 70.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
My name is Lewis. I'm an old guy at the crowd right now. I started back in Philly, like I said, how I got started in Philly was the club scene. I really started signing up just my club in '67. But as I grew and started meeting other guys, officially a wall writer in '68. I stopped in '71. Uncle Sam sent me ingredients from his president, and I got drafted in the Army in '72. I'm good.
So I'm going to come around. The guys in Philadelphia. So here's Karate. Karate, if you could just tell them your name and your start date.
I'm Karate, and I'm originally from North Philly, and I started in about 66, 67, just writing my name, and then I started trying to get popular like these guys. I am blind, and as they say, they used to wear the blind sweaters. That's how I got my name. I started in 1970.
Thank you, sir. Crazy.
Hi, my name is Crazy. Real name called Michael Lewis, but they call me Crazy with a K. We know you are. Me, myself, and DC Cone, he had a couple other things, but they call it Cool Daddy Cone. We started in 1968 together when we was in about the 6th grade.
Okay.
And he started the club ICP, the first original all-wall writers. And our guys know who they are. And Cornbread take credit. But he had a social club. We had all right club.
Right.
I understand you guys think that there's a big difference there. One is a social club. One was started by wall writers for wall writing, not to go dance with the girls.
Okay, I'm Cool Daddy Cone, originally DC from Philly. I started the first wall writing club in Philly with Crazy and King Lewis and all us. We was all together. Really, Lewis got drafted by me anyway, whether you want to admit it or not. Anyway, yeah. Now it's like 10 chapters of it around the world. Y'all can hit me up on Cone_I Philly. And yeah, I got the LLCs and everything. Holla at me.
King Smooth already spoke. You start what year, sir? 1970.
I want to thank New York. I want to thank you all.
Thank you.
Together we come up here, we like family.
No doubt. Who else is here from Philadelphia? Sketch, if you could please tell everybody your name and the year you started, sir.
I'm Sketch, and I started in 1969. I just ran across an article with me, Earl, and Cornbread in it, and it was pretty interesting.
I have an article with you with Mo and with Tank. I'll show you. And
Cupcake, I did not know this whole time that this Cupcake, give me a hug. The ladies are in the house. Yes, Cupcake. I was asking about you and nobody said I bought Cupcake. My goodness, Cupcake, please tell us what year you started.
I'm just thankful for Lewis for keeping us together and connecting you to us, to you guys. I'm from West Philly, 40th Street, and we just thank Lewis for getting us to you. And that's what I want to say to you. I didn't think we would come this far. I think I'm 69, you 71, Yeah, and I just thank you for having us. And I don't write on the walls, I'm a funeral director. So what you learn is, from us being bad or whatever people think, we had talent.
Master Print. I think we have Master Print 1, 2, 3. If you could just tell them real quick, sir. What year did you start?
I started in '76. Master Print 1, 2, 3 from North Philadelphia. Children of Doom was the crew that I was the president of. COD.
Okay, is there anybody else from Philly? Okay, here we go.
Dr. Hank from North Philly, Erie Avenue, from 69 to 72 when I got out of school.
Okay. And here we go, sir.
2 North Philly, ICP 1, original, 1970.
Anybody else?
Tony ICP, 71 to 76.
Got you.
Right now, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, because the real Grand Wizard will now rise before your eyes with beats for sure and cuts galore. So can we please put our hands together for the Grand Wizard, Theodore!
Get up, stand up, come on, put your hands up, get up, stand up, come on, hands up! Get up, get up, get up, get up, get up.
Can I have the Philadelphia Riders in the corner over here, please, for one moment, Philadelphia?